So I got the fantastic category, which is best website, and I, better than that, got 4 good fun people who I know very well to come on as the judging panel. Now, so to make sure that you know everybody, I had the fantastic Tamara Strauss, who is the Director of Global Cross-Brand Communications at Intercontinental Hotels Group globally. Which basically means that Tamara gets to look after the world's largest, all of the core competencies and marketing disciplines within the world's largest hotel chain. Secondly, I got to work with Yanni Papadopoulos. Yanni cut his teeth at Procter & Gamble before he went to Omega Pharma, where he's now the marketing director for the UK and Ireland. And he's got 2 sides to his job. On the one hand, he's reigniting some of the old classics that you will all remember from when you were younger, taking lots of, well, your parents were getting you lots of drugs to take, which were things like Jungle Formula, Nitol, and Solpadeine. And he's about to do a massive attack into the UK with future brands of XLS Medical, Prevalin, and Dermalex. Yanni will explain to you in a bar later what all those things do. Lastly, we have, or almost last, we have Brian Scott. Brian is the Marketing and Communications Director of Metro newspaper. So if you ever wondered, in the morning, the voice of London, which is clearly Metro, that probably everybody here reads when they go into work, Brian is a man that's responsible for that. And last, but by no means least, is Zaid Al-Qassab. Zaid is the Managing Director of Beauty and Grooming for Procter & Gamble. But more importantly, and he is going to get 2 minutes to do a little party political broadcast, he is Mr. Movember, so the guy behind all the moustaches that all of you are seeing popping up, apart from Bob Gamble from the Royal British Legion, because I know it's there the whole time. But Zaid is the man responsible for any moustaches that you're seeing in your agency or brand office at the moment. So without further ado, I promise Zaid that he can big up Movember for 2 minutes to all of you.
Thank you. I'm certainly not the person responsible for all the moustaches. There's a wonderful team at Movember. I've been there on secondment this year for the last few months, helping them with their marketing and their future strategy. And many of you, friendly faces I see in the room, have allowed me to come into your agencies and brainwash all of your people. I've been trying to harness the creative juices of London and of our industry. So thank you very much to all my friends in the audience who've allowed me to do that. Movember is a wonderful little story. 10 years ago, a group of friends met in a pub, and after a few beers, they had an idea. All good ideas happen after a few beers, in my experience. And they decided to embark on this amazing journey, which 10 years later resulted in them raising, last year, more than £90 million around the world. Like all good ideas, it's built on a fantastic insight. And that insight is that men don't like talking about their health. And therefore, by growing a moustache and creating a visible signal, you have an unavoidable conversation starter. And based on the more than 1 million men who took part last year, we estimate that more than 2 billion conversations about men's health resulted. And those people recommended to their friends and family and typically to their fathers to go to the doctor and get checked out and make sure that they're fit and healthy. And many of you do take part. The thing that many of you don't know is where the 90 million quid goes. Movember funds 3 different things. It funds prostate cancer research. In the UK, that's through Prostate Cancer UK, and Movember's their single biggest donor. It funds testicular cancer research through the Institute for Cancer Research, and it also funds programs into men's mental health. If you think that those things might not be relevant to you, then you should probably think again. 1 in 8 men will be diagnosed with prostate cancer during their lifetime. And in the case of mental illness, it's estimated now that 1 in 4 men suffer from mental illness in any single year, which is quite shocking and not much talked about. So when you see someone with a mo and you want to make a cheap jibe at them, please go ahead and enjoy yourself. But also, please remember what's behind it and do spread the word. So I think many of the men here don't need to be told to check their balls, but if you're one of the men who isn't regularly doing so, then I'd encourage you to check away. Thank you very much.
So without further ado, we had a large quantity of websites to look at, and we'll play the film which will show you who the shortlist is.
New content is always being added, whether it's a daily blog post or breaking work, such as our mobile app for the BMW i3 or our latest Toy Story spot for Sky.
No, look! Okay, who else is on the internet?
So there we have it. So we have 3 on the shortlist, which is Zone, TMW, and WCRS. What you probably don't see is we spend a lot of time with clients, with people like this, trying to get them to justify their decisions. So when they're talking to us about why they happen to like a particular agency, we're asking them the question of why a heck of a lot. So when we got together and we sat down in the room, we said, we've got all these websites to have a look at. One of the first questions I can't remember who asked it, but somebody asked the question, which was, so what's the criteria then? And I said, well, I don't know, because we never quite know what the criteria are. You need to tell us what the criteria are. And then we got this, no, really, what is the criteria? And I genuinely didn't know what the criteria were. And so we spent a good amount of time talking about what is it when you try to get into a website that you're looking for. If your mate, who happens to be marketing director at Coast, sends you an email saying, oh, check out this website. What is it that's actually interesting you? If Peter sends you a website and says, I've just seen something that's quite interesting, what are the things that are going to make the difference and are actually going to connect with you as a client? Because for us at Oystercatchers, we always want to dig underneath why things are going on and why the things are that are making a difference. And these were the criteria that Zaid, Brian, Tamara, and Yanni collectively came up with to describe what it is when they're sitting there in their offices looking at websites, as obviously they're doing 8 hours a day, what are the things that actually for them are very important? And they pulled out these 5 very interesting points. One was around immediate impact. Second was around ease of navigation. So immediate impact, does it actually grab you straight away? Ease of navigation, can I actually get around this website? Is it obvious and intuitive what's happening? What's the speed of use? So can you quickly get around? Can you find out films that you're in there? Maybe look at results, understand where they were. Optimization, which I know the guys are going to talk about, probably ad infinitum, because we talked about there's a huge amount. And then lastly, about the agency, is there actually a clear sense of who the agency is, and what's going on, and does the spirit of the agency or the words that we're reading about the agency come through? Do they translate when you're looking at it in a digital format? So I'm going to start off with Mr. Zaid, after we gave you your 2 minutes. So overall, when you were looking at all the websites, what struck you the most about what you were reviewing and what you were seeing from the agencies?
Well, firstly, I thought the quality was really high, and I'm pleased that it no longer seems to be the job of the intern to do the website. But I'd love to say that the really important things, up there on the wall are what struck me: the personality or the philosophy of the agency, the quality of the work and the results, and so on. But even though that's the most important thing, what struck me most was that some of the hygiene factors weren't always being dealt with well. So I was browsing on either my phone or a tablet, because that represents the mobile situation in which I'd probably be when I had a bit of spare time to do this sort of work. Almost certainly not at my desk. And it was really tough to find sites that were optimized for, that were device agnostic. And some of the other hygiene factors, like how quickly you could navigate, whether you could even find the contacts you needed, all of that sort of stuff was not universally dealt with sufficiently, which is a shame, because I wanted to focus on the work and the philosophy of the agency.
It was interesting for me as a judge. My biggest insight was when I said, let's review the websites, without any prompting, Zaid pulled out his tablet, Brian pulled out his smartphone, we had a computer in the room, Tamara pulled out her laptop, Yanni, I don't know, you're looking out the window or something at the time, but the point being was that I naively assumed that everybody was going to crowd around this computer that we had set up in the room, but everybody said no, they wanted to review it, how they reviewed an agency's website. And so we had this multi-platform viewing session going on, and we learned very quickly that, a number of the websites, actually one person would automatically get immediately removed from the viewing experience that they were involved in. Was there any insights on the first question around that Brian or Tamara or Yanni would like to chuck in? So the overall quality of the work.
Yeah, I think that the mobile thing was so important, and mobile by all devices. It was just one of those things that, as you say, came really naturally to everyone. And the ones that didn't cut the mustard, and albeit we were in a fairly artificial environment, we were sat round looking at one after the other, 4 of us round the table. But if it just didn't work, we just cast it to one side very, very quickly. And there was no disagreement about that. It was just very much a case of, doesn't work, stick it away.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Tamara, so would you like to give us a little insight? What were some of the things that you found that you really loved, and then maybe some of the things that you didn't love when you were looking through?
Well, I think we've already covered off the the aspects about the search and so forth. If we couldn't find a website easily on any of the search engines, we kind of gave up. Also, understanding a bit about the domain. If the domain was too clever, that just didn't link into the name of the agency. Again, it impacted search. We wanted to know that agencies were investing as much time in their websites as they would in clients. And so it became apparent that sometimes agencies spend so much time on their clients' sites that they sometimes forget their own. And we couldn't do things like actually find the contact details for the business development director, or we were taken off onto a new browser as part of your network agency contacts, not necessarily finding the contact details for the UK. So they were quite frustrating.
And I'm just going to cut it. The quote of the day for me was, the person who remained nameless, but said, and the agency remained nameless, where they went, I can't believe it. This agency is actively hiding their contact details on there. And I actually feel like I want to ring them up to tell them that they're actively hiding their contact details.
It was great when it was easy to find out the content, what do you actually do, without having to go really, really deep down into the content and go, digital agency, I know what I'm going to be, getting. So there were quite a few, just as I say, the basic hygiene factors weren't always coming across. But generally, the quality was good and kind of good use of graphics, but we wanted to make sure that there was content that linked into search, which then meant that we found the right site as quickly as possible. Great,
thank you. Brian, I always think Brian's interesting because as most of you probably know, the big thing is Metro at the moment is, and hopefully you've all downloaded the app. Metro is moving from a paper-based format to an app format. I highly recommend you all download it because it's a very fantastic app, Mr. Brian. Now, I promise you I'll do that. Now, the question for you is, how important is the agency to you? So when you're actually when you're looking at websites, how important is the agency behind the website to you? Or is it just about finding somebody who could just sort of get the job done?
Yeah, I think, as Tamara and Zaid both talked about, getting those hygiene factors right are incredibly important. So you got a really good gist of what the agency was about. Some of the sites that we looked at, and this doesn't take away from the creativity or the beauty in the execution of the sites, but sometimes you just kind of struggle to understand what is it they actually do? What are they trying to tell us that is their core specialism? And I think the team that talked about the creds talked about that as well, which was just tell us what you do. I think even when we boiled down to the last few agency sites and then we got to the shortlist, we were starting to see a very clear. It wasn't always a case of a functional piece, but it wasn't like we do, let's say, mobile or we do digital or whatever. But it gave you an idea of the context behind agency, the way they thought, the way that they would operate. But it wasn't always the first thing that we thought of. If we got to the point where we couldn't find the work or we couldn't find the contact details, again, having all that stuff there didn't really matter. Don't know if anyone would add anything else.
Yeah. Cool, thank you. And then Yanni, last question for yourself. So, probably the biggest question of all is, what do you actually use an agency website for? Just as a thought. So what is it? And then when and why do you find yourself looking at them? Is it the big thing at 8 o'clock in the morning when you get to your desk, or is there something else happening?
Yeah. When do I find that I look at agency websites? I mean, usually actually when I see a piece of work, that's usually it. I don't find an agency name. I mean, usually they're acronyms of something, to be honest. So I don't normally remember those. But if I see a good piece of work, I'll immediately go and look it up. That's the first thing I do, and that leads me then to the agency website. The other reason is you, Richard. You often prompt me to look at agency websites. So
Thanks, mate.
is that a good plug? Is that good enough?
No, that's perfect.
Fine. Good. So thank you, Oystercatchers, for that. But no, I think just one more build just on what everyone else has said. I think we talked a lot about the optimization, about the work, tell us what you do. I think that's all very important. For me, actually, personality is very important, actually, because at the end of the day, it's all about people and what they believe in and having a point of view. And maybe that's obvious to most people as well, but for me, that's something that grabs me when I look at an agency website. I'm not just looking at optimization or sort of the contact details. I'm also looking at, why are you guys different? What's your edge? Yeah.
Excellent, thank you. So without further ado, same as last time, so Yanni is going to announce the agency from the shortlist of 3 who won. And we're going to attempt to do a bit of a double act, but he's going to talk about all the reasons why the panel voted this agency as a winner, and at the same time, seamlessly, I'm going to attempt to drive this live, but I'm not quite sure what he's going to say, so we'll dot around it. But hopefully, because the website's so good, it'll all work quite well. If not, I'll look like a bit of a tit. And then we will ask the winning managing director to come up. So, Yanni, without further ado, the winner of the Best Website 2013 is...
TMW. Do I have an award?
Oh, no, you just have to... Oh, Chris, take a seat. Take a seat.
Welcome.
I'm loving it. It's like you're ahead of yourself already.
Oh, thank you very much. Thank you.
So, would you like to put some of the reasons why you like this website?
Yeah, I had to, I won't lie, I had to remind myself last night about your your website, and but I've got to say, when you land on it, my God, it's like you're in the movies. It's beautiful. The production values are incredible, and it's instantly engaging and eye-catching. So, and not just because of Kelly Brook, but even North Chefs I thought were very good too. I think the second thing is simplicity. Okay, I'm a big fan of that. I think using plain English is very, very important. You have very clear principles. That's very important to me as well. You have a point of view, and that's for me that comes out very clearly in your website. I think you can't see it there, but on my iPhone and on my tablet, it's very easy to navigate. Your menu is dead simple, about us, etc. Don't try to be too clever. That really, really works. And I think the final thing is engagement. Your work. I mean, great work, by the way. And again, it's not just because of the Lynx girls. There's many videos of Lynx girls here. It was late last night. But I think the way you presented them, I've got to say, first of all, having the results there, having the context of why they were special, etc. But just having a video that in a minute or two told you why it was a special piece of thing. That's the main thing I look at, to be honest, and I go, right, these guys are for me. And on those counts, it was a fantastic website and well done.
Thank you very much.
There was one other thing we loved about the website, which was you have an elevator pitch in there. And we love the fact that you have a two-floor elevator pitch, which actually took 2 minutes. So that kept us reasonably entertained as well.
It's an ironic elevator.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's a very good point tomorrow. We're actually going to nick that idea for our own website, so thank you.
So should we do the...
Yeah. Oh, hold on. Watch out. Sorry.